I
Yeah, you
figured
just
it
have
out
to trim it at the
finally.
start, don't you? Did you trim the one?
Like the whole way through, because it has like a little counter for like 30 seconds. And then we realized today that this is live, but it's hard to even introduce, isn't it? Until you've actually officially, and there we go. We are officially live. Take the floor, Benjamin.
So welcome back, everyone. We have got a wonderful mindset masterclass for you all. I know we're not due to kick off for another minute or two. So if we can, as always, Lucy's going to pin the NHS Trust link in the description box. If anyone can leave any amount, 50p, a pound, for anyone who's joining in, that would be massively, massively appreciated. The way that the format of this session is going to work is that we'll firstly have Jamie, who's going to commence with chat shortly, and then we're going to open up the floor to questions. So if people are dropping questions in the chat box already, we will come back over them and open the floor to Q&A at the end. Jamie will give his a bit of an intro himself, but for those who don't know Jamie on a personal level, he was responsible for quite a few things. He's responsible for getting me in the best shape of my life. He's responsible for me quitting my job, and he's responsible for me kind of starting my business from where I'm up to today. So one thing I don't want you to take away from this is if you are really motivated, don't get off the live and ring your boss and quit your job. That's not the point of this live.
Maybe not a time like this.
Definitely not a time like this.
Dodgy.
But yeah, we've got a few people starting to whittle through now. So Jamie, I'll leave the floor open to you, my friend. I'll leave you to give a little intro into yourself, and then we can kick off the mindset masterclass when you're ready, buddy.
Cool. So did you want me to do the intro now, or are you going to do an intro?
Yeah, you can do your intro now, buddy.
Excellent. Ladies and gents, just started pissing down. How are you? All good in the hood? And hello from YouTube. So a little bit of background about me. I was in the British Army from the age of 17 to 26. And one of the main reasons that I joined, because I had two options: go to prison or join the army, because I was a little shit as a kid, really hyperactive, really didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was only kind of two directions for me. And it's probably one of the best things that I ever did was to join the army, because it gave me that discipline, gave me that routine, and it really, really sorted my life out. When I got to about 24, 25, I decided that, that the army was a stepping stone onto something else. And I left the army and got a normal job. I was working in IT. And then suddenly, next thing I know, I managed to get a job working abroad. And this job working abroad wasn't just any normal job. It was working in psychological operations for the US government. I didn't actually know that until I started working, because they couldn't tell me until I started the job. So such a fascinating job, learning more about what makes people tick, learning a lot about, psychological operations. From there, I moved across to become security advisor for the UN in Kenya and Somalia. So once again, very exciting, kind of a scary job working in some really war-torn country. But that also taught me a lot about mindset, of which I'll speak about a little bit later. When something really, I'd say at the time, really shocking happened, I got made redundant. I'd literally flown to Kenya. I was told I no longer had a job, and flew straight back the next day. And I was like, you're having a fucking joke. You could have told me about 9 hours ago when I was getting on the plane. And I felt completely lost. I really did. And I think this is quite prevalent at the moment, because a lot of people might be feeling like this. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. This was 2012. I just got a mortgage with my wife. All of our savings went into it. I had about 800 quid left in the bank, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. First thing that I'd ever done in my life, which I should have done ages ago, was to write shit down. And what I did is I wrote down, what are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? And what can you see yourself doing, now? And it all kind of pointed towards personal training. Now, I'd always been reluctant not to turn my passion into a career, because I thought I'd resent it. I thought, if I become a personal trainer, I end up not liking going to the gym. Probably the worst thing that I ever had as a thought, because then I decided to become a personal trainer. Obviously, I had no money, but fortunately, I had a credit card. I whacked £16,000 onto that credit card. Got my certification in 2012. Got a studio, bought a load of gym equipment, and then borrowed my dad's bike to cycle up to this little studio. This studio happened to be on an industrial estate in the countryside by a prison. And from there is when I started my business as a personal trainer. And that was 8 years ago. And since then, within that 3-year period from 2012 to 2015, I became one of the most well-known kind of personal trainers in the UK. Went on to build my own gym facility, kind of transitioned a lot now into what I call body, brain, and business. Because if you've got a problem with any of those three, then I'm your man. So that is kind of a very, very long-winded story. And I do apologize, but it kind of takes us to where we are now. And Ben, of course, was an ex-client of mine, which I prepped for a competition. How much did you lose, Ben?
I started 15.5 stone, and we dropped down to 13 stone on their thing in 14 weeks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, AJ, one thing I remember about Ben is, like me, you give him a plan and he'll follow it to the letter. And not everybody can do that. It's like a very small percentage, but every once in a while I see those people and they always go on to do great things. Mm-hmm. So I've got a lot to talk to you about tonight, because I've been asked by Ben to talk about mindset. And it's something that I've really focused on the last kind of 3 or 4 years, mainly because of my own things that have happened to me, and just my fascination and obsession with mindset, a lot from working psychological operations. But one of the biggest things about working with clients that I understood is that transformation starts from the neck up. You get your head right, your body tends to go with you. And that has led me into writing a book, Mindset with Muscle, writing another book called Meltdown, and having a podcast called Mindset with Muscle. So it's something that I've been very fascinated with over the past kind of 5 years. And even more so during this really crazy pandemic period, because what I tend to do every single morning as part of my routine is I get up, my one exercise session that I'm allowed to do on a daily basis. I go out about 6:30, get down to the seafront, jump on Facebook Live, chat for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I'll jump in the sea. Wind, rain or shine, I'm in that sea, going for a swim, going for a dip, and then I'm out on a walk and doing my day. And one of the main reasons for doing that is routine. When you are in periods like this of uncertainty, this is where a lot of people get overwhelmed and anxiety, because they don't know what the fuck's happening. And when you're in that situation of extreme uncertainty, in order to get a bit more balance out of your life, you need to gravitate towards more certain things. Now, there's lots of different things that you can gravitate towards when it comes to certainty. For me, I know if I jump in that sea and go for a walk in the morning, I'll feel like I've achieved something very early in the morning. When I jump on my Facebook Live, I feel like I've served people for the day. I've lifted people's spirits up, which makes me feel good. And if I do that every day, I get a little bit of certainty that I feel a lot better. Now, with yourselves, there's many different things that you can get certainty from. I think one of the biggest things, and also one of the hardest things during this period at the moment, is exercise. We've all had our gym facilities taken away. I was just speaking to Ben and Lucy about not having any gym equipment at home. And neither do I, because I like actually going to a gym. But it's just making do with what you've got. And I had to dig out an old TRX. I had a few bits and bobs, and I've just had to make do. And as much as exercise is very difficult to do, especially even for me, I know I feel better once I've done it. And actually, what we tend to do in these periods of time in uncertainty is we tend to gravitate towards certain things that we know make us happy. Most people know that pizza makes us happy. Most people know that watching Netflix makes us happy. Most people know that actually doing things to cure boredom and actually get that instant gratification makes us feel happy, but it only makes us feel happy in the short term. And unfortunately, bad habits compounded don't actually turn to good things. They turn to worse things. And then what we end up doing is going, why do I feel week after week more miserable? Because during a time like this, we need to stop listening to how we're feeling, because we're allowing our feelings to affect our future. We don't want to exercise, so we don't, and we feel worse for it. What we need to do is kind of turn and understand that none of us are motivated at the moment to do much. But in actual fact, motivation isn't something that you should be searching for, because if you were relying on motivation to get stuff done for the day, you're not going to get much done, because you're only going to do things when you feel good. The key is to learn to be disciplined with things. And the real difference between motivation and discipline is discipline is not wanting to do stuff and do it anyway. Every single day I wake up and this is my kind of process. I hate jumping in the sea. It's cold, especially this morning, right? It was howling it down. The waves were ridiculous. And I was just like, everything's going to get wet, but you're still going in. And it was because I didn't want to do it. And I go, right, the days that you don't want to do stuff are the days when you need to do it most. Because as much as I hate jumping in there, I always have a smile when I get out. And as much as you hate wanting to do a home workout, as I do, I always feel great afterwards. And what we need to start remembering is the good things that we do, how they make us feel after we do it, not before. And also understanding that, you don't have to do everything right for the day. You just need to do one or two things that are going to kind of set the bar for the rest of the week. And this is so, so difficult to do, but it's that kind of thought process where if you don't want to do something, it means that you need to do it the most. And it's such a counterintuitive thing because there's no one around us watching us on a daily basis. And you have the perfect excuse not to do sod all because we're in a pandemic. Everyone is not feeling good. And perfect excuse, but don't give yourself that excuse with things. One of the main reasons that I jump in the sea, when I wake up in the morning not wanting to do it, I look down and I have my swim shorts on. I go to sleep in my swim shorts. And the reason being is if I wake up in the morning and don't feel like doing it, why would I have my swim shorts on? And I've also made my life so much easier having everything ready to jump in. So it's, what that's kind of teaching you is preparation. You might not want to exercise, but you need to create the conditions so you do. It's put it in your diary. It's actually putting some skin in the game and paying somebody to jump on a Zoom with you to train you. Because that is a massive thing, accountability during this time. If you stick 20 quid in to say that somebody's going to go on Zoom to watch you work out at 11 o'clock, you're kind of accountable to somebody else and you're probably going to do it. So start thinking of ways during this time of doing stuff that you might not want to do. And if you struggle to do, then of course, pay someone to hold you accountable for it. How I do this is I don't have anyone to pay to keep accountable for, but I have social media to keep myself accountable for. Everyone knows that I go live at about 6:45, wind, rain or shine, down on the beach, and then I jump in the sea. And that obviously holds me accountable. I go live for all of my workouts at home because I fucking hate working out at home. So if I actually schedule it as a live stream on Facebook, I've got to do it. And I won't half-ass it. I'll have to do it to my best ability. So really that is the kind of difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation, of course, you're probably going to do the stuff because you're in the right mood, but we're not in the right mood to do anything at the moment. So we need to learn to become disciplined. What things do we not want to do that we need to do, which are going to make us feel better? And I'll tell you, they are exercise, they are eating healthy, and they are connecting with people. And actually, one thing I found that works very, very well during this time is if you feel shit, make somebody else feel better. Because that will make you feel better. What people tend to do is they feel shit, so they want to share that with other people. They want to argue with people on the internet. They want to make other people feel bad, and so they know how they feel. And that never works. That never making somebody else feel worse doesn't make you feel better. Once again, it might make it in the short term, but you're still going to feel like shit. So a lot of things I'm talking about are a very counterintuitive thing, and it's usually do the opposite. If someone argues with you on the internet, you tend to want to respond with that, exact same negativity. When in actual fact, the real response is to respond with kindness because it ends the conversation. And it's very hard to be argumentative with someone who's being nice to you. And it's something that I've learned a long, long way ago, back in this social media game, because, you can easily get so caught up in comments in a lot of people online who are, in a bad mood. And something that I've always said is those who shout hate are usually asking for help. So if someone has taken the time to write a long-winded message for how much they dislike you, the best thing that you can actually do is, respond in kind. So I'll come up for a little breath now, because I've got a lot of things to talk about. One of the most things that has resonated with a lot of people during this time is something that I coined a couple of weeks back, and it was called permanent thinking. Now, what permanent thinking is we're in a situation at the moment which is very uncertain. We don't know what on earth's going on. We don't know when this is going to finish. What we need to start doing is imagining if this is going to last forever. How would we change the things that we're currently doing? And what I mean by that is a lot of people aren't really exercising, or they're half-assing the workouts because they're waiting for the gyms to open so they can get back to a normal routine. Lots of people aren't really doing any, like reading any books or doing any courses or educating themselves because they're not in a good mood, and they're just waiting for all of this to go over so then they can fill their lives up with everything else and still not do it. And I think one of the things about permanent thinking is, if this was permanent, what would you change now? Because what you need to be focusing on now is ways of continuing your progression with a different change. And what I mean by that is, you shouldn't be half-assing your workouts. You should be going, right, if now for the rest of my life, I am stuck in my house to do workouts, how can I build muscle? How can I drop body fat? And how can I progress with the thing that I love? And that has a very different way of thinking about stuff, because you then have to get a lot more creative with your workouts. You have to train a lot harder with your workouts. And actually, when you have that kind of mindset, it feels like you are progressing, and it's that progress that makes us feel good. You know, no one feels good having their lives on pause. No one feels good waiting for something to happen. They like to feel like they've got momentum in their life. You know, a great book that I highly recommend is by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and it's called Psycho-Cybernetics. And he has this analogy of a bike. And what he says is that when you jump on a bike and it's stationary, it's very hard to control and it's wobbly as fuck. When a bike starts moving, it's very easy to control and it's very easy to steer. And that's very much like ourselves. You know, if we are stationary, we're very wobbly, and we have a lot of anxiety and overwhelm. But if we've got direction and we've got progression, we get that motivation, we get that feel good factor. And that's what I'm talking about with regards to permanent thinking. You know, if you have been half-assing and waiting for things to change, don't. Imagine that this is your new normal, and what are you going to do tomorrow to go, right, okay, I can't do that now, what can I do next? Because it's using that creativity, it's using that imagination, and it's adopting that to your life. And what's great about that is this will all blow over. Things will get back to normal. But the great thing is that you will have still made progression during that time. And actually, it's going to be a lot easier when we get out of this, because if you can achieve success during periods of uncertainty like this, then it's going to be so much easier for the rest of the year. It's going to be you're going to have a very successful year next year, because your success is going to be a lot easier to do. So that's permanent thinking. And that's what I really want to get people to kind of ponder with what it is that they're doing. Cool. Makes sense?
Yeah, amazing. It's just so true, everything that you were saying there as well. Like, I think it really resonates with us.
Yeah, I think it's what we were discussing with Paul as well yesterday, in regards to people just kind of floating through this period, because it's going to be over in a couple of weeks anyway, so don't need to do this and don't need to do that. Whereas you see it as a permanent thing, that you're going to make those new habits and routines, and create those new habits and routines without kind of worrying about what's going to happen next.
So kind of the next thing to go on from that is that people go, okay, so now I need to do stuff. So what you're saying is, I need to exercise, I need to eat healthy, I need to read a book every day, I need to learn. And I was like, whoa, hang on, slow the fuck down. As with anything, and we'll reference this to a lot of clients that we work with. A lot of clients that we work with want to go hell for leather. You know, when they want to make a change, they want to change their diet, they want to they want to go from no exercise whatsoever to suddenly training 5 times a week in the gym, and they're changing all these habits at once. And when you have massive change to your life, it's very, very hard, because you haven't built up those habits. You know, one thing that we do with habits is we want to turn, we want to turn conscious actions into subconscious actions. We want to be able to, automatically eat healthy, train every day and feel good without having to go force ourselves to do it. And that's where, when we build up habits, exercise and eating healthy does feel easier. An example of this is, when we first learn to drive a car, it's a nightmare, because we've got so many things to think about and it's very difficult to do. And then after about 5 to 10 years of doing it, sometimes we get to a destination and we're like, oh, how the fuck do we get here? Because we're just so used to going through the motions of doing things that it becomes an ingrained habit and it becomes easier to do. And that's what we want to do with our nutrition and that. And the only way that we can do that is by taking it slow. And an analogy which I use for this is a 1 chapter a day analogy. And I put this in my book. A lot of people want to achieve something. And, if we went to January and you turned to me and said, right, I want to read more. And then suddenly, like most people, that they go and buy all the books on Amazon and they say that they're going to smash it and it's going to change their life. And an example of this is example 1. If I whacked 35 of the most game-changing books on your desk in January, and I said to you, I want them all read by the end of the year, you'll probably get through 2 or 3 in January and February. You'll probably, forget about it a little bit in March. You might get another one done in May. And then, you'll probably, if you're lucky, maybe get 6 of them done by the end of the year. But instead of slamming down 35 books, if I just gave you 1 book and I said, I want you to pick a time for the day, say 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. every single day, you're going to read 1 chapter. That chapter is going to take you 10 to 15 minutes. And I want you to, without failure, do that every single day, committing to 10 minutes a day. Now, if you did that 10 minutes a day, average self-development books, 11 to 12 chapters, you'd get between 32 and 35 books read in the year. So that is a kind of a 1 chapter a day. What we're not trying to do is change everything and do everything and, absorb as much as possible. We just want to do small things consistently, because small things done consistently equate to big results. I had an incredible thing happen to me about a year ago where I did a photo shoot and I'd seen my back width had got bigger. And I was like, how the fuck that's happened? I haven't really trained back that much over the year. And then I started to think about it and I was just like, there must be something going on. And I remember that my morning walk, there's a pull-up bar. And it's quite funny because I do 7 pull-ups on it every morning. The reason I do 7 pull-ups is it's got this little diagram on it. It says beginner 3 pull-ups, intermediate 4 pull-ups, advanced 7. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do 7 a day and I'm going to feel I'm advanced every single day. And I weigh 91 kilos. And then the reality is 91 kilos times 7. That's about 637 kilos of volume going through my back. And I looked on my watch and I'd done 265 walks that year. So when we're looking at volume being the key to hypertrophy, I'd actually put the same weight volume as a Boeing 747 jet through my back from just doing 7 pull-ups a day. And that's very similar to that 1 chapter a day analogy. If I just did 7 pull-ups for the day and looked at my back in the mirror, I'd be like, oh, nothing's happening. If I'd just done a week of pull-ups and then nothing happens and I say to my coach, nothing's happening. And I said, wait, you just got to wait for a year. And they're like, I ain't got fucking time for that. This is what people are like with their habits. They're too impatient in seeing a result, which is why they want to go hell for leather, which is what stops them from actually achieving success, because success isn't achieved overnight or in 8 weeks or in 3 months. Success is achieved by consistently doing something every day for years on years on years and years. And every person that I've kind of seen with any kind of success, it hasn't come overnight. It's come from many, many years of doing stuff. And I'll give you some great examples for this. I was just actually watching a YouTube video of Matt Does Fitness, and he was showing some of his ad revenue. And he got $36,000 for 1 video in ad revenue. And he's probably earning maybe $100,000, $150,000, maybe $200,000 a year from ad revenue. But then he also showed that his videos from 7 years ago that he'd been posting every single week for the last 7 years that looked like they'd been shot on a potato. But the reality is that he has been doing that for 7 years consistently without not doing it for the money, doing it for the passion and what it is that he's doing. And now he's getting the rewards from it. Look at Joe Wicks. a great example for Joe is that he started YouTube once again 8 years ago, doing workouts, and some of his workouts maybe hit 100 views. And during this pandemic season, pandemic season. Hopefully, it's not a pandemic season. Every year, come on. And during this pandemic, he has grown his YouTube by almost 2 million subscribers. And so many people look at that and go, oh, it's all right for him. But they haven't looked at all the work that he has done over so many years to achieve those things. And I think one of the things that people need to understand is that you need to take things in your life one chapter a day. When we're looking at our habits and that, we need to start thinking of what one or two things can I do for 10 minutes a day that are easy to do, that I can do without fail, and I can just do and forget. And actually, if you do and forget, but do it consistently, you'll look back maybe a year, 18 months time, you're like, holy shit. Because that's the kind of thought process that we need to do with things. We do need to read a chapter of a book once a day. We do need to do those 10 push-ups a day, because they're the things that are going to turn into big results over time. So think about what you want to do and what you could potentially do during this pandemic. Not going to say season, during this single pandemic that should never happen for another century. What can you do every single day without fail that you can tick off and look forward to the potential results in the year to 18 month time?
Because I think that's where as well overwhelm kicks in for some people, doesn't it? Like I used to be the exact same when I was filling in my diary. I'd put like so many tasks down a day to complete where it was just the point where it was too much. So instead of doing that, I was just writing down 4 key tasks that I was focusing on doing well, completing properly, and then feeling fulfilled from completing those 4 tasks that I probably wouldn't have got done because I had so much on my plate to try and attack.
Yeah, and it does come to writing things down and doing a minimum effective dose. Something I say to a lot of people, I commit pre-pandemic to doing 3 gym sessions a week, and they're like, "Why only 3?" And I said, "Well, if I do 3, then I'm happy, and I usually do 4. But if I commit to do 5 and then I only did 4, I'd feel like a failure." So actually committing to a minimum effective dose every week actually makes me feel good and actually motivates me to go again, because I like to get a little Brucey bonus. But if you set the bar too high with things and you're constantly not hitting that bar, then you're going to fail. And, I've had this from clients where I had a guy that lost 12 pounds his first week and lost no pounds his second week. And he was gutted. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe I haven't lost any weight this week." I said, "Well, hang on a minute. If you lost 6 pounds last week and 6 pounds this week, would you be happy?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, it's the same weight." And I'm like, "Oh," he's like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Well, you just got to, it's all about how you frame things. And it's all about knowing how people work. People like to set the bar high, but they sometimes need to be realistic, because actually setting a higher bar for yourself, and we've all heard that kind of cliche quote, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll hit for the stars. But some people, if they don't hit that moon, they're devastated, because they're not thinking about the stars or the benefits from it. They're looking at perfectionism, and that's what a lot of people are shooting for. If they're not 100%, they're at 0%. When in actual fact, you need to be 80%, 100% of the time. And it comes down to, and you see this 80-20 principle throughout lots of things. You look at it through having a flexible approach to your nutrition, where 80% of your food should be all right and 20% should be a little bit naughty, because actually that's what will keep you consistent, because it's that 20% of the crap that you're allowed to eat that actually produces the 80%, 80% of the results. And the reason that it does is because you don't feel like that you need to cheat. You don't feel that you're going to extremes with your diet, and actually that can be consistent. And this is so important to do with kind of your to-do lists and everything else. And what I find a lot is whiteboards. So many people use tracking apps and everything else like that, and reminders. I use whiteboards. And the reason being is I can write stuff on it, and I can also rub it off, and I can tick it off. And it always feels good to put the right amount of things on there, and then get to the end of the day with all these little ticks on the screen. I'm just looking at them now because I've got shed loads of whiteboards, but that's what works for me. I'll write I'm doing a lot of courses at the moment, so I write all the course contents out with all these little tick boxes, and then they'll all get done. And I feel good because that's my minimum effective dose for the day, and that's ticked off. So if you do not own a whiteboard, ladies and gents, or a very nice chalkboard that says Mindset Seminar with Jay Alderton behind you.
It's actually a black glass board.
Oh, check you out. Check you out. Very, very prim and proper. So I think, right, you know, I've just put one thing down here to write shit down. And that could be with lots of things. You know, your to-do lists. The reason I like whiteboards and things like that is because from a habit point of view, you know, if it's on an app on your phone or that, it's not in sight all of the time. But when I'm walking in my office and I see it all of the time in my head. And I used to do this with stretching. I'm really shit at stretching. So then what I did is on my office floor, I'd have a mat permanently rolled out with a like a foam roller and a trigger point ball there. So I literally have to walk over it every single day. And so it's that cue to say, well, why are you walking over it and you haven't done it? Which reminds me to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's something when it comes to habits that James Clear talks about. Another great book I highly recommend is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Brilliant. One of his biggest takeaways that he says, especially with things that we've got here, you know, in our houses, that we want to make bad habits difficult to do and we want to make good habits easy to do. So to make an easy habit good to do, it needs to be visual and you need to make it easy for yourself. Once again, to make a bad habit difficult to do, you need to make it obviously difficult to achieve. So if you are drinking too much at the moment, the best thing that you can do is, you know, have it out, you know, remove it from the house. I can't have beers in the fridge because they like literally for some reason they vaporize very, very quickly. So I have to say to myself when I'm in the, you know, I have a very fine gin collection, but I'm quite good with gin because you have to mix it. You have to put fruit, you know, I'm a bit of a gin snob. So it takes a little bit of a while to do a gin, but a beer you can just get out of the fridge and drink. And when you're going into the fridge, it seems to be that magical kind of light on the beer that makes it really inviting. So my thing is, Jamie, don't, out of sight, out of mind, don't have beers in the fridge. But the same thing with your good habits. You know, if you struggle with exercise, once again, I said, hold yourself accountable. But if you want to get up and exercise and go for a run in the morning for your daily exercise, put your shoes out, put your socks out, put everything out. So as soon as you get out of bed, it's there. Because if you are waking up and giving yourself excuses, oh, where's my shoes? Oh, I haven't got socks, then you'll just stay in bed. And that's making, you know, good habits easy to do. So I think that's really, really important. And with regards to writing shit down as well, you know, gratitude is very, very important this time. We tend to, at the moment, a lot of people, you know, they're getting that kind of, what's the word? I was going to say FOMO, that's the one, fear of missing out. So it's not necessarily fear of missing out. They just feel like they're missing out on going to the pub, connecting with their friends, and all of that kind of stuff. But in actual fact, a lot of people that have come to me, especially coaches in that, they've said, well, I never get to spend any time with my other half. I never get to see my kids. And now they've gone from never being able to do it to all of the time. And now they're complaining that they want to go back to work. And it's just like, and this is so important. It's just gratitude is such an easy thing to do. And you don't need to get joss sticks out and start making hum noises. You just need to, at the end of the day, write 3 things down that you're grateful for in your life. And they're so simple, because then you start getting into a habit of looking at the positive things from everything. And there's lots of positive things to be taken away from this pandemic. You know, the ability to spend more time with your family, the ability to probably get a lot of things done in the house, which you keep saying that you're going to do and haven't done yet. And probably the ability to just hit pause on a very hectic life. And that's something that I've been very grateful for during this. You know, everybody is in the same boat, and I feel like I'm not running 100 miles an hour with stuff. It feels like I've not necessarily eased off on the pedal a little bit, but feel a lot more relaxed about things. You know, this will blow over, and it's allowed me to reflect a lot more, spend a lot more time doing stuff. And, you know, that kind of thing has really, really helped with my mindset, just to be able to, I write a lot of things down anyway, but just the ability at the end of the day to go, look, what 3 things that are going on in my life feel pretty damn good. And if you can get into the habit of spending 5 minutes a day doing that, that can really, really change the game. What's kind of your process, guys, for writing stuff down?
I'm a proper with everything. Like I have a morning and a night journal, and it's quite lengthy. You have to write quite a lot in it, but I also suffer with anxiety. So for me, I have to write down how my day is going to be good, what I'm going to do to make it great, a positive affirmation, and then it switches. So before bed, 3 things I'm grateful for, and then I think, did I stick to my positive affirmation? So for me, I'm so consistent with it. Like I just love doing that, don't I?
Yeah.
And it just really, really helps me, and it always has.
I'll give you some recommendations. If you like, I mean, I've got my own one, which I created, and it's kind of, I call it my meltdown management scale. And this all depends on how kind of deep you want to go with doing this. You know, a beginner, I always say, you know, just make it nice and easy, like a little 5-minute journal. But my meltdown management scale, it has 4 things: health, wealth, productivity, and connectivity. And all you do is rate yourself 1 to 5 on them at the end of the day. Health, did you eat healthily? Did you exercise today? You know, did you look after yourself today? Wealth, we're not just talking about financial wealth, we're talking about social wealth. You know, did you connect with people? You know, have you, you know, increased that social network of wealth? Because that's really what makes us wealthy, is just having an abundance of friends and connections around us. But also, have you got shit done to push the needle forward with your business or with your body or with your brain? Productivity, have you got shit done today? Rate it between 1 to 5. You know, have you ticked some boxes? Have you got the things that you said you wanted to achieve today done? And if not, why not? And then connectivity, most important one, and one that I screwed up for almost a year. It's no good ticking all the boxes with your health and your wealth and your productivity if you're not connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made with in 2016. You know, I was so focused on business, I was so focused on achieving everything and getting everything done that I got to the end of the year and realized that I hadn't connected with any of my friends. I hadn't spent any time with my wife. And it was kind of realized that, you know, when I did this kind of management scale, that my connection was like 1. I was like a robot machine ticking boxes and doing all of this stuff. But it was a kind of a realization that, you know, although I was very successful with that, I was very unsuccessful with the connection things. And it was a realization of just how important that is in your life. And it is so important because you've got to ask yourself, what are you doing all of this for? Who are you doing all of this for? Because if I was to carry on with that, it'd be 5 years where I might have achieved an incredible amount of success, but it would have been a very lonely, successful thing because there wouldn't be people around me to help, you know, celebrate the success because they'd have left. And that is so important to look at as well.
I think we were very similar last year with that, like, weren't we? Because the thing for us is, because we're both working on like the same project, like we're on top of each other all the time. We don't sometimes have that person to say, we kind of need to wind it in a little bit now, Ben, because we're both working on the same thing. So it's very easy just to keep going until stupid o'clock at night. And that's why we got to a point last year why we just in the end fucked off to Australia for like 2 months, didn't we? And just create content, chilled out, and re kind of connected with a lot of social things, and reconnected with each other a lot, didn't we, in regard to some things that we wouldn't necessarily do together because we're just spending all our time together on work. And I think that's for some people, although we're in isolation at the moment, some people are probably more connected than ever with their mum, with their dad, whoever it may be, because they're actively FaceTiming them or giving them a ring or whatever, which they wouldn't probably usually do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like I've actually spoken to my parents more during this lockdown than I have, and because my family are not, you know, my wife's family are very, you know, always every Sunday I'm around theirs, but my mum and dad will see them every month or every so. Yeah, I totally get that, and it's been kind of proactive with that as well, and that's a kind of a huge realization. But same for me, you know, 2016. That's where, you know, I got to the end of the year and I just had a complete meltdown. You know, I moved out from my house. I got my own flat, drinking really heavily. And you kind of like within a month going from the most successful year in the world to then suddenly going, what the fuck happened? And that kind of rebuild stage where I was reconnecting with people, reconnecting with myself, and Anna, you know, we went away with 2 holidays where I switched my phone off for a week. And that was amazing because like, I remember we actually, I won in an auction, a private island for 7 days.
Yeah, plus.
And we went away and I switched my phone off for a week, and you kind of switch your phone on like that. And I caught up with one in 5 minutes, and you're like, fuck me.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of realization that you do need to switch off. And that's what I mean by switching off is just disconnecting from the world, disconnecting from people, and allowing yourself to reconnect with yourself. Something that a real different thing that I've been doing this during this pandemic is usually on my walk. What I tend to do is I tend to listen to podcasts and audiobooks. But now what I tend to do is I either just listen to some background music so I can think, or I don't listen to anything. And I just listen to the sea and go for a walk. And it's a real difference because it just allows you to be with your own thoughts instead of somebody else's. Because a lot of time when you're on a podcast, you're listening to somebody else talk and you're not really listening to yourself. So you kind of sometimes can be busy and ignore what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
So it's actually planning those periods of time for a little bit of silence and a little bit of reflection and going, because people don't do that. I know a lot of people who aren't willing to be with themselves for 30 minutes to think, right, how have I been today? How have I been this week? What have been going on? And that comes down to writing stuff down. There's a great app I'd recommend to a lot of people that's free. It's called Youper, Youper, and it's kind of like an AI. It's kind of like an AI therapist. What it is, it's kind of a bot that integrates meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, and that. And the more that you put into it, the more it learns about you. And when you're feeling good, you add things to it. When you're feeling bad, you add things to it. And then what it does is if you feel stress or have anxiety, you jump on there, you chat to the bot, and then it looks at all the stuff that you did before and then pulls it up. And it's as if it knows what's wrong with you. So you're like, oh, I'm fucking pissed off today. And like, oh, here's what you did last time that you pissed off. Try this. And then you're like, oh, you seem to know me quite well now. So Youper's a fantastic thing. And if people aren't really, comfortable speaking to people about it, then speak to an artificial intelligence app, and it's good. It's calmed me down a lot, and you get to know a lot about yourself as well. So that's a recommendation. And of course, just writing things down, because things that mull over in your head will continue to mull over in your head unless you put them down on a pen and paper, because then it comes back and go, oh, I'm thinking that. A lot of people that I speak to, when they start doing this exercise or even start speaking to me about stuff, they're like, I was writing you something and then I stopped writing because I got my own answer from the text I was about to send you. And I was like, it's because you wrote it down.
Yeah.
And then you kind of figure it out once you've written it down. So it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think it puts things into perspective sometimes, doesn't it? Because a lot of the time we obviously act quite irrationally when we first receive something or get information. You probably read the Chimp Paradox, Jamie. Yeah. And sometimes we just act on that raw emotion and fill in gaps and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's not until we kind of take a step back from it sometimes and really analyze what's going on and talk to ourselves about it and reflect on stuff that we really realize that maybe the decision or what we were thinking doesn't need to be the final say on it.
Yeah, and something that really changed the game for me was Stoicism. I started reading about 3 years ago, the Daily Stoic, and started researching a lot of Stoicism. And one of the main outcomes of Stoicism is you can't necessarily control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. Mm-hmm. And the reality is we're all human beings. We all experience the same feelings. We feel anger, we feel stress, we feel overwhelmed, we feel anxiety. The feelings that we get in the pit of our stomach and in our head are no different to anybody else. Right? But when you see people respond differently, that's something that you can control. And it's not easy to do, because once again, what we spoke about at the beginning is a counterintuitive approach. Being able to understand your feelings is very much like, and I said this at IFS, is like this bad boy. For those of you under the age of 30, which most of that is a Rubik's Cube, which you probably already know. But what I kind of say with regards to knowing yourself is that solving things in your head is very much like solving this. In order to solve this, there's no magic. There's 16, like for a basic thing, there's 16 algorithms. There's 16 moves on this which will solve it. And once you learn that, when this is in a particular place, you just need to twist it a certain way and it's solved. And that's very much like your brain. When you're feeling something, if you know more about yourself, you can remember the move to switch it to solve it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I know that when I feel overwhelmed, it's because I'm not writing things down. I'm thinking too far into the future. And most importantly, I'm not thinking about the good things at the moment. I'm thinking about all the bad things. So I might be thinking, fuck, I've got to do this today, this today, this today. I've got that to sort out. And in 2 weeks' time, I've got that. And then it's like, whoa, hang on a minute. You've worked yourself up now. That thing 2 weeks away, that doesn't matter. That thing is, and it's just, once again, say moving that Rubik's Cube and sorting the puzzle out, and instantly you're like, oh, okay, cool. Sort my own shit out. And then it's remembering those algorithms. Mm-hmm. So when I feel, for example, you know, and I used to have this probably a couple of years ago, when you feel a lot of envy towards somebody else who, you know, you're working hard and then suddenly somebody gets success and you know that they haven't worked as hard as you, or, you know, they've had a lucky break. And, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I used to be like kind of resentful for that. But instantly when I started to feel that, I would see that was a feeling and then flip turn it. And then that would then mean that I have to reach out to that person to share their, you know, to share their luck, to share their good fortune. And actually that's completely flip turned it now from 3 years of doing that to actually feeling good about other people's success. It's patting people on the back and knowing that that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And that comes from seeing a feeling and trying to do the opposite of the response which you get from it. So it takes practice, as with anything. You know, when we talk about building the body, we understand that we need to put it through stress and tension for it to grow. And it's the same with the brain. You know, if we want to bodybuild the brain, we need to daily put it through stress and tension for it to grow. So we need to understand what stress and tension we need to place on it. But as the same with the body and the brain, there is an equation for growth, and that's stress plus rest equals growth. A lot of people, of course, if you go to the gym 7 times a day, you're not going to build a body, you're going to destroy it. If you put immense amount of stress and tension on your brain 7 times a day, you know, 7 times a week, you're going to have a meltdown. So what we understand is that the key to bodybuilding is the rest part, so we can repair and recover. And what's important for our brains is the rest part too. The only thing is kind of psychological and emotional pain isn't very visual, whereas actual kind of physical pain is. And of course, that's why we at the moment have a massive problem with mental health, because we can't see that somebody's injured, and they can quite easily bullshit us with a smile and say that they're fine. When in actual fact, if someone's fucked from the gym, you can actually say because they're limping or they can't carry on. And it's important to know that, because a lot of people aren't resting. They're not, you know, putting their phone down. You know, my process for social media is, I know that my full-time business, as with you guys, is online. So I need to have strong habits to get the fuck offline. With an online business, you've got no door to close, but you can close your laptop. And that's an important thing. I know that the worst thing you could ever do would be put any notifications on your phone. So I don't have any notifications on my phone. I switch my phone off at 8 p.m. It's off. And I have got an alarm clock by my bed, which means I leave my phone downstairs. And these are all extreme things that I need to do and have made me feel so much better from doing.
And you started doing the phone swap as well, didn't you? When did that kick in? Yeah,
so phone swap Thursday kicked in a long time ago. I know it is Thursday, and I haven't been doing as many swaps for the past few weeks, but I have been doing kind of a social media free day, and it tends to be more on a Saturday. So I'm actually going to be doing mine on Sunday this week, but I try and have one day completely off my mobile phone for the day or away from tech. Pre-pandemic, one of the best investments that I had was about 3.5 miles from here is an incredible spa. It's quite an expensive membership, but they've got an outdoor pool and jacuzzi, an indoor pool. They've got everything there, you know. And what I do on a Thursday is I leave all my tech here. I grab a book and a bag and I go up there and I spend 4-5 hours sitting by the spa. I book myself in with a half hour massage, have a little pamper, have a little 3-course meal in the really posh restaurant. And I come back and I feel incredible. And the first time I did it, I felt so guilty because I'm like, Jay, like everyone's working and you're sitting there with your little spa slippers on, reading a book. But then you kind of realize as well that you at 50% is not good for anybody. You at 100% is the best. And I heard a great thing about this kind of quote about $1 million racehorse. And what it is if you owned $1 million racehorse, would you work it to the ground or would you feed it the best food? Would you give it the best exercise and rest? Of course you would, because you've invested a lot of money into that horse and you want it to perform on the day it's supposed to perform. And the reality is that you as business owners, you as a person that serves, thousands of people, you're that $1 million racehorse. So you need to treat yourself for the most amount of respect. You need to give yourself adequate rest and recovery, not just for yourself, but because you doing that is going to benefit so much more people, because you at 100% is so much more valuable to others than you at 50.
That's so true, because we've had that with, like, I really struggled at the start of isolation. I started doing so many Instagram hit workouts and lives because it was helping people. But I've never been so fatigued in my life. I was on the floor. By the end of week 3, I realized I hadn't taken a rest day in 3 weeks. And you were literally like, you look dead.
Yeah, I also remember when Jamie was saying previously in regards to, obviously, you can't serve other people from an empty vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you saying the quote before in regards to when you're sitting on an airplane, they always tell you to put your mask on before anyone else, so that in therefore you can help more people.
And everyone kind of falls into thinking, right, it's my time to step up and serve my audience and do that. And it's just like, well, yeah, cool. You can do that for a couple of weeks, but then you stop being able to serve people because you're jumping on a live stream and your normal infectious energy and excitement is down, because now it's no longer something that you want to do. It's something that you kind of are committed to do and don't want to do it. And actually, a book I recommend is called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And what he talks about in that is what's called the success paradox. And what the success paradox is that you become known for something and you stand out from the crowd, and then a lot of people come to you for your service. Because a lot of people come to you for your service, you have to serve a lot of people. And because you've got to serve a lot of people, you don't have any time for yourself. And over time, you become so busy that the person that you were when you started and the service that you delivered to your clients at the start is totally disappeared. And now suddenly you have clients and people dropping off because the person that they hired 6 months ago isn't the person that they hired today. And in actual fact, your own success has been your downfall, because you have worked yourself into the ground and you haven't learned how to say no. You haven't learned to switch off, and you haven't learned to say, look, 6 hit sessions, nice, but do you know what's nicer? Recording 3 in the knowledge that most people will probably do 2, and the fact that most people will watch the recordings afterwards because they need to do it in their own time. So actually, to do 3 live and then schedule them, let's just say you did Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you scheduled those workouts that you live as recordings Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, means that you'll have the recorder crew come in because they can do it in their own time. And a lot of people prefer to do it in their own time. And then you'll have the live crew too. But you'll also be serving 2 different people and they'll all feel great about it. And you've halved your work because you haven't had to go live 6 times. So sometimes it's just knowing that kind of less sometimes is more. And as with anything, it's a law of diminishing returns. Too much of a good thing is bad for you, just as much as too much of a bad thing is bad for you. So it's looking at what's the minimum effective dose to produce the maximum amount of results. And that minimum effective dose is, the amount that you can do which keeps you at 100%, which keeps you turning up every day motivated and inspired and everything else like that. And a lot of that comes to being able to delegate out lots of things. A lot of business owners, they don't delegate things. In our own business, the reason that we've got where we are today is because we're the jack of all trades. And a lot of people don't like to be the jack of all trades because they hear the quote, the jack of all trades and master of none, but they've never really heard the whole quote. And what the whole quote is, the jack of all trades and master of none, but at times better than a master of one. And what that actually means is actually it's good to be good at multiple things. And most business owners are. The problem with that, unfortunately, is that because we're good at stuff, we don't trust anyone else to do it. And that's also a downfall, because you don't really need to edit your video. Someone else can do that. You don't really need to answer emails. Somebody else can do that. There's a lot of things that you probably do, which you don't need to do. And it's down learning to delegate those things to others, which is the hardest thing to do. And even people who don't run a business, there's lots of things that you can delegate other people to do. I cannot, for the life of me, put like my DIY is shocking, right? That took me 4 attempts. That little paper thing, it took me 4 attempts to get up. I have one tool in my box, and it's a hammer. So if it doesn't go in with that, then I can't do it. So I delegate these things out to people that can actually put holes in walls. I put.
I actually comes to washing up. I'm terrible at
Yeah,
it.
wash up.
Yeah, mowing the lawns is mine. That's my wife's job. Cooking, I'm good. I'm good at that. Ironing, 7 years in the army, I'm good at that. But it's knowing what things that you don't like doing, and obviously being able to trust other people to do it. And a lot of things with your business, a lot of people need to do that as well.
Amazing. We have. Do you want to go into questions?
Yeah, we've got a lot of questions for you, mate.
Cool. Fire away.
So Tegan has said, also there's so many thank yous. I can't read them all out because there's hundreds, but everyone's blown away by this seminar. But Tegan's just said, do you have any tips on how to structure a routine or find enough time in the day to do stuff you need to do? I have uni deadlines and it's really difficult to concentrate.
So I think as well is knowing times where you are at your peak and at your best. Some people are early birds and some people are night owls. So for me, I love getting up early in the morning, and I'm really creative in the morning. So if I'm going to write anything, I'm going to do anything, I need to do it at that period of time. So it's knowing that. But my wife, she's a photographer, she does a lot of editing and that, but her brain comes alive about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So she suddenly gets that motivation to do it. So it's knowing where you best perform, and then it's allocating your time to do that. And it's exactly the same as I said, small things can consistently turn to big results. At the moment, I'm writing 3 courses. They have about 40 to 50 videos in each course, plus all the written stuff. That could be overwhelming by going, I've got 200 videos. And it's like, no, you haven't got 200 videos. You've got 3 videos to do a day without failure. And then you tick them off. You're not going to do any more. You're not going to do any less. You're just going to do your 3. And this is the same with coursework. Chunk it down into what it is that you need to do. You've got a lot that you need to get done, but reverse engineer it. If it needs to be done in 3 weeks, so you set yourself 21 days, and then you're like, right, 21 days, what have I got to learn? What I've got to do? Let's divide that by 21. And then suddenly things become a lot easier because you only need to do a little chunk every single day, as opposed to trying to get as much as done as possible. And it comes back to that book analogy. You've got the 35 books on your desk, trying to read through them to get it done. When in actual fact, you just need to commit to that 1 chapter a day.
I suppose that's where different people are different though as well. And this is the same with me and Lucy, like with prioritizing work. Like Lucy, with regards to content, we'll focus on content early on the day, won't you, and getting that done. Whereas I tend to focus on the shit that I hate doing first, and I'll get that out of the way and do it, and then I'll do some of the content, even if that is more sometimes valuable than the other stuff, because otherwise I just procrastinate and not do the other stuff later on the day, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, and it depends. I'm always a big fan of doing stuff that do your big tasks and things that you don't want to do in the morning. Mine are more the psychological things, like I don't want to jump in the sea, so I do it anyway. And it's kind of that eat that frog mentality. And the whole quote is, if you eat a live frog in the morning, the rest of your day is easy. So getting those stuff out of the way first can actually motivate you to have an easier day, because the day is easier. But also it's knowing when you best perform. You know, if you got me to write and to do stuff in the evening that involves more kind of down doing stuff, I can't. I'm quite good at talking in the evening, hopefully. But when it comes to pen and paper, to typing, to creative stuff, that's kind of 6 to 8 a.m. is my jam. So that's what I say: chunk things down and know the times where you best work, and then set yourself up to win from those times. If there's stuff that you need to get done, someone asked me what the best productivity tool is in the world, and I said to him the best one for me was switching off my mobile phone when I needed to get stuff done. Funny,
my mum just texted me during that with a notification came through saying you need to do that. Just as we were talking about it.
Ben's a scroller.
Yeah.
He's a scroller.
I procrastinate.
But I'm quite good at like just being off of Instagram and I just don't really I just put it aside and don't really care. You love a scroll.
I love a scroll.
You take away from that. Interesting question.
What do you do to stay active on days with bad weather instead of just wanting to sit and watch TV all day?
So it comes down to that thing, like you need, like, here's the thing, like when it comes to my morning routine usually is 2 hours long. If you add the walk, the seed it, the talk and everything else like that. But there's going to be times where I'm not going to be able to do that 2 hours. Sometimes I might only do an hour. Sometimes I might only do 10 minutes. So it's having a plan B and a plan C. So if I can't do my 2 hours, I do, right, I need to still maybe get a workout in and this. So what I mean by that is, on days like that where you can't get to do the things that you need to do, you need a plan B. And your plan B could be a go-to home workout that you do. It could be a few things that you save, and it's committing to do that small thing. And also, I think one of the most important things is knowing that it is difficult. And this is the biggest thing, is if something is difficult to do, it's good to do. Because if everything was easy, we'd all have millions of pounds in the bank and we'd walk around with six packs. Mm-hmm. Embrace things that are hard to do. And this comes down to that discipline thing. Don't ever wish for things to be easy, because then if things are easy, you wouldn't value it. If you woke up the next day and I gave you the body of your dreams and the money to go with it, it wouldn't last very long because you didn't know how you got it.
Amazing. Yeah, I think with that, like when it's pouring down, we can't usually do the stuff that we used to do, and trying something new or different is good, because if you're starting from a position where you shit at it, if it's something new, we're all going to be shit at something that we're not good at doing. But the difference is we get better at it fairly quickly, so we feel more fulfilled from it, and you'll continue to do that new habit anyway.
And set yourself a challenge with it. Like if you're wanting to exercise more and you're wanting to, say, build your upper body strength, set yourself a challenge, like a 10 push-up a day challenge, or a ladder challenge. A ladder push-up challenge is great. So it's easy. What you do is you go on the floor, you do one push-up, you stand up, you go back down, you do 2 push-ups, you stand up, you go back down, you do 3 push-ups, you stand up, and you keep going until you can't go anymore. And then your score is whatever you got to plus that. So like, I think I did it on live and mine was like 13.5. And when you get up to 10's about 60 odd push-ups. So it's difficult. So to have a little whiteboard and to put that on every day, you'll be amazed if you did that every month, not only how much more upper body development and strength you get, but because it's on a board and it's challenging, it's progressive. And if you can get somebody else in on it, especially who's sitting at home, and put maybe a couple of like 20 quid on it, and then you're going to have a Zoom competition at the end of the month. Now you're motivated. It's very much like your Fitbit tracker. Okay. When we see Danny from work that's just overtaken us, we're out and we're getting some more steps. We can't let Danny win.
Love that. So this next question is really good, and it was actually asked before you did start to speak about it. But I find that I'm constantly on the go and never allow myself to relax or rest, as I feel like I should be doing something, and then I end up burning out. Any tips on relaxing my mind? So
firstly, it's more of an analogy thing, because I always work off analogies. If we were running towards a horizon, it never gets any smaller. So it can be overwhelming because we never get there. And the only time that we can see progress is if we stop and look back and see how far we've come. So what you need to understand is that people are like, no matter how much you're on the go, you'll never complete the game. The only way you're going to complete is when you're on your deathbed, and that's you. And no matter how far you run towards the horizon. So what you need to do is commit to and challenge yourself to just stop for 20 minutes and get a process in it. And everything always works well with a challenge. Okay. And hold yourself accountable, and you're going to challenge yourself for 30 days at 2 p.m. to do something for 20 minutes for either yourself, which doesn't involve tech. It could be, jump on and listen to Calm for 20 minutes, jump on and do a headspace for 20 minutes. Just do it as a challenge for yourself for a month, because a month is enough to see a benefit from doing it. An example of this is, I obviously wanted to, about a year ago, I got into sea dips, but that was a bit extreme at first. I wanted to, because it's bloody cold. So I wanted to do cold showers, and they're even worse. So I basically told my I told my Instagram account that I'm going to do a 30-day cold shower challenge. And then I recorded me doing them and uploaded them to my Instagram stories every day. And the first 14 days, I was like, this is pointless. This is crap. And then about day 15, day 16, I stopped getting that cold reaction to the shower. I could actually have a full cold shower with no hot water and be fine. And that took about 15, 16 days. And then funny story is I was at a hotel and I was staying there. Someone put me in the worst hotel ever, and they had no hot water. And I had a massive smile on my face, because I just like weirdly timed, like 18 days had been doing this cold shower challenge. And I didn't need, actually, that was, to anybody else and to me, maybe 6 months before, that would have been the worst, most annoying situation in the world. But it actually flipped on its head, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And because I instantly saw the benefit from what I was doing and committed to it, then I started to see the benefit. And it's the same with exercise. You have people who struggle with exercise, and then suddenly they see a friend that they haven't seen for 10 years. They go, cool, you're looking in great shape. You watch that person's consistency and motivation go through the roof, because they've seen the benefit from what it is that they do. So I know I've rabbited on with this, but the main thing is to challenge yourself to do it for a period of time until you start to see the benefit from it. And as soon as you start to see the benefit from it, it becomes a lot easier.
I know you've mentioned a few already, but we had a question from Instagram. What would your top 5 book recommendations be?
Okay, so since we are in this pandemic period, I will say Mindset by Carol Dweck, a great one, which I'd highly recommend. I'm trying to get some of the non-businessy ones. Atomic Habits by James Clear. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
You can include your own book in it if you want to.
Mindset with Muscle by Jamie Alderton. And then the final one, I think we want to recommend a good one. I might recommend a classic, yeah. Yeah, I will do. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And the reason that I say that for this time, Man's Search for Meaning is by a guy called Viktor Frankl. He was caught by the Nazis in the Holocaust. Instantly, he had his wife, his children murdered in front of him. And he had spent a year in a concentration camp in conditions which could only be described as the most horrific that any human would ever have to experience. And he wrote that book during it. And he wrote about, how to develop a sense of humor during tough times. So if he can develop a sense of humor during that time, we can do it during this time. And there's a lot of perspective and commonalities with what he was experiencing to the high level of extreme to what we're experiencing now. And I think one of the biggest things that people need to have in order to get through things is perspective. If you have the ability to compare your situation with other people's situations, it can cause a lot of stress and anxiety to calm down. The reason I'm so calm in a pandemic, as I was saying to Mel and Lucy, is the fact that I was a British Army soldier. I spent 6 months in Iraq. Similar conditions, just with no Netflix and 30 to 40 mortars, which are massive rockets being thrown at our base every single day. So when I'm in a situation like this, I'm like, well, at least I don't have to carry body armor around. At least I'm not potentially getting killed every day, and at least I've got Netflix. So it's just that perspective that allows me to go, hey, I've dealt with worse, so this is cool. But also, you might not have experienced being in Baghdad, but you can experience somebody else's view of the world through books, and that is a very short book to read, very big perspective on things, and that could potentially help.
Well, I think we'll finish with this last question, which is very fitting from Debbie. So she said, someone has to ask on Dr. Mike's behalf, and this is a deal breaker. Favorite biscuit? Okay,
so I'm going to say Jaffa cake, only because I know where this is going. So it's not Jaffa cake, but I've got a long-winded argument with Dr. Mike II about whether Jaffa cakes are biscuits or cakes. I say they're biscuits, he says they're cakes. And my defense to that is professional footballers eat Jaffa cakes, okay? Professional athletes aren't allowed to eat cakes, which is why it's a biscuit. So we'll end the discussion there, I think.
That is, yeah. Incredible.
Thank you very much, buddy. We massively appreciate your time. Where can people find more of you? Because there's been loads more questions. So where can people find you, mate, online?
Easiest place to find me, at J Alderton. Send me a DM. I won't be answering till tomorrow because I will be doing what I said I do, and that's switching my phone off at 8 so I can spend time with the family, relax and catch up. Well, I've just finished that. Have you seen Ricky Gervais's Afterlife?
No.
We're watching Money Heist.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I've just gone on to episode 2 of the second season of that. That was great. I thought I watched the first one and I thought, oh, this is just a quick series. It's not. It's a fucking long-winded one. So yeah, that's good. And I'm just watching something called Scorpion, which is it's like a action kind of thing with smart people. It's a bit far-fetched, but it's addictive. It's good. That's my Netflix recommendations for you. So I was going, at J Alderton is the best place to go on Instagram. DM me and I'll get back to you tomorrow. I do get back to all messages. So
cool, brilliant. Thanks for your time, mate. Thank you very much. And to all those who are still on live, again, if anyone can leave any donation, would be absolutely brilliant to the NHS Trust Fund. And thanks for tuning in and dropping all the questions in. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, YouTube.